In the quiet town of Okigwe, nestled between slow hills and broken tar roads, lived a girl named Chinaza. From birth, Chinaza had only one hand, her left. Her right forearm ended just below the elbow, smooth, scarred, and usually wrapped with a bandage. People said she was born like that. Others whispered that it was a spiritual punishment. But no one really knew the truth, not even Chinaza. Her mother ran a small roadside stall, selling boiled corn and coconut. Her father had vanished years ago. Nobody really talked about him anymore. Some said he went to the city and never came back. Others said he saw Chinaza's short arm and ran away in shame. But her mother, thin and strong-willed, always told her, "Don't mind what they say, Chinaza. Strength does not come from muscle. It comes from inside." Her mama always said, "When they laugh at you, don't answer. Just walk. The sun doesn't fight with the clouds." And Chinaza believed her. Because in her small heart, she carried something stronger than pity. She carried hope. But school was coming, and school was not like home. At St. Michael's Secondary School, nobody cared about that. Her classmates didn't welcome her because she looked ridiculous. They all wondered why such a girl would even be enrolled in their school in the first place. Nobody wanted to even share a desk with her because of how odd she looked. Everyone was surprised by her presence and kept looking at her with a mixture of disgust and confusion. She was an overly shy and socially awkward girl. The only time she would speak was when they asked her about classwork. When Chinaza said something in class, others would ignore her, cut her off, or shift their attention elsewhere. She was an easy target. She didn't speak up for herself, and everyone knew she wouldn't fight back. So they took advantage of her. To them, she was nothing more than a poor, ridiculous girl with just one hand. A girl who didn't belong. To her classmates, Chinaza was a joke. They laughed at the way she held her pen. They mocked the way she struggled during practical classes. Some even said she should be in a special school. The loudest and cruelest voice belonged to Tomiwa. Tomiwa was tall, fair like bread soaked in milk, and her clothes always smelled like flowers. Her shoes clicked like a ticking clock, and her laughter echoed like thunder on a dry roof. Every time she walked into class, heads turned. Even the boys straightened their shirts when she passed. She was always surrounded. Two girls carried her books. One girl held her water bottle. Another one followed, just to laugh at her jokes. And her jokes were always about Chinaza. "Look at her hand," Tomiwa would say loudly, pointing without shame. "Is it a twig or a chicken bone?" The girls around her burst into laughter like rain falling on metal. "Maybe her mama forgot to complete her in the womb," one of them added. Chinaza sat at the back, her face straight, her eyes quiet. But inside her chest, her heart beat like a drum in a war. Every day, it got worse. One morning, Chinaza was trying to open her locker. Her one hand was slow, careful. Tomiwa walked by, shook her head and said, "Even lockers don't like her." Then she laughed so hard her earrings danced. The class laughed too, not because the joke was funny, but because it was Tomiwa. Nobody dared to disagree with her. But Tomiwa's cruelty did not end inside the school gates. At home, Tomiwa always told her parents about Chinaza, describing her as the one-handed girl who should not be in a normal school. Instead of correcting her, her parents joined in the laughter. Her mother would say, "What good could a one-handed girl ever do?" People like that should not be wasting space in classrooms. They should be under the bridge begging. Sometimes, when Tomiwa's mother came to pick her up from school in her polished black SUV, she would call Chinaza over in front of everyone. "Chinaza!" she would shout from the car window, her voice sharp like a blade. Chinaza would hesitate, then walk over slowly. Tomiwa's mother would then stretch out her hand and hand her a half-eaten meat pie, or leftover jollof rice packed in foil. "Take this," she would say with a pitying smile that carried more insult than kindness. "You must be hungry. You poor people don't waste food, do you?" Sometimes she would even add, "Why are you in school anyway? You should go to the roadside and beg for coins like the other people without hands or legs. You are not meant for this place." Laughter from Tomiwa and her friends always followed. Despite the humiliation, Chinaza never said a word. She would lower her eyes, take the food with her left hand, whisper a thank you, and walk away. She took the food not because she wanted to, but because she knew there might be nothing waiting for her at home. There were days she went to school with an empty stomach, days her mother couldn't afford even Gary to soak. Chinaza would turn around and walk away. Her steps were slow, but her back was straight. She didn't cry, not there, not where they could see. But when she got home, she placed the food on the mat, removed her sandals, and sat beside her mother and ate the food together. Her mother looked at the bag and said nothing. She just touched her daughter's head gently and whispered, "One day they will know who you are." Chinaza said nothing, but there was something even darker that she carried alone. On several occasions, when the bullying became unbearable, Chinaza tried to report Tomiwa to the headmaster. She would knock on his office door timidly, holding her tears back, hoping someone in authority would help her. She entered the headmaster's office, her school uniform dusty, her socks uneven. The headmaster sat behind his big desk. His glasses were low on his nose, and he smelled like old paper and bitter cola. Chinaza stood still, her one hand holding her skirt tightly. "Sir, please, I want to talk to you." He looked up. "Talk." "They laugh at me, sir, every day. They say I shouldn't be in school. They say I'm cursed. Please, help me." The headmaster leaned back in his chair. He didn't look surprised. He didn't ask questions. Instead, he looked at her hand, then back at her face. "I can make it stop," he said slowly. Chinaza's eyes brightened a little. "You can?" "Yes," he nodded. "But you have to do something for me first." Her heart paused. "Sir?" she asked. The headmaster's lips curled into a thin smile. "Let me touch you. Let me sleep with you. Then I'll announce it at the assembly, and nobody will dare bully you again." Chinaza's chest beat like a talking drum. She took one step back. Her ears were hot. Her hand trembled. Her mouth was dry. She didn't speak. She didn't cry. She just turned around and ran. Out of the office, past the staff room, past the classrooms, back to her corner under the mango tree. She told no one, not even her mother. She knew that if she spoke up, it would cause chaos. Her mother might withdraw her from school, and this was the only secondary school in town. If she left, her education would end. She couldn't let that happen, not after everything she had survived. So she stayed silent. Every day, she walked into school with her shoulders straight, her eyes quiet, and her spirit tucked deep inside her like a fragile candle in the wind. Then came the school's outdoor development program, the camping trip that changed everything. The school organized a week-long excursion to a forest reserve. Chinaza's mother almost didn't allow her to go, fearing for her safety, but eventually agreed after hearing that teachers and medical staff would be present. At the camp, the bullying escalated. Tomiwa and her gang made it their mission to humiliate Chinaza. During a hiking exercise, they intentionally walked faster, leaving her to stumble behind. At night, they smeared pepper on her sleeping bag and laughed when she squirmed in pain. Chinaza cried silently, pressing her face into her blanket so no one would hear. On the third night of the camp, the sky was dark and the moon was hiding behind the clouds. The forest was quiet. Only frogs and crickets were singing their small songs. Most students were already in their tents, sleeping or whispering stories. Then it happened. Boom! A loud sound burst through the air like thunder cracking the sky. The outdoor kitchen had caught fire. A gas stove had exploded. Flames danced into the air, licking the cooking pots, setting wooden tables on fire. Fire! Fire! Someone screamed. Chaos broke out. Students ran in every direction, barefoot, afraid, crying. Teachers shouted, trying to bring order, but the smoke was too thick and the fear too strong. Tomiwa had been close to the kitchen. As she turned to run, her leg twisted on a tree root. She screamed and fell near the edge of the thick bush. Her ankle was bent. Her hands scraped. Her friends didn't see her. They ran without looking back. Nobody helped her. Nobody stayed. Except one person, Chinaza. She saw Tomiwa on the ground, coughing, crying, her face pale like ashes. Chinaza didn't think twice. She ran through the smoke, covering her mouth with her wrapper. She dropped to her knees beside Tomiwa. "Don't touch me!" Tomiwa shouted through tears, but Chinaza didn't answer. She grabbed Tomiwa's shirt with her only hand and began to pull. The ground was rough. Stones scratched her knees. Sticks tore her wrapper. Her chest burned from the heat, but she didn't stop. She pulled and pulled, one step at a time. Tomiwa's body was heavy, like wet cloth, but Chinaza's spirit was stronger. She dragged her through the dry grass, past fallen leaves, away from the fire. Smoke followed them like a jealous shadow. When they finally reached the open field, where the teachers had gathered the students, Chinaza collapsed beside her, panting like a dog that had run too far. Teachers and students gathered around, astonished. "Who brought her here?" one teacher asked. Chinaza said nothing. She stood quietly, her face streaked with ash, her eyes expressionless. But someone had seen it all. Miss Ebeli, one of the teachers, had watched from a distance. She stepped forward and said clearly, "It was Chinaza. She saved her." Silence dropped over the group like a heavy curtain. Tomiwa stared at her, but her face was unreadable. That night, lying on a mattress with her ankle bandaged, Tomiwa whispered something to her group of friends. The next morning, the smoke was gone, but the smell of burnt wood still danced in the air. The forest was quiet. Even the birds didn't sing. Everyone was still talking about the fire. Teachers went around checking if all the students were safe. Some were still scared. Others acted like nothing happened. But everyone remembered one thing. Tomiwa had almost been swallowed by the fire. During morning gathering, Miss Ebele stood beside the head teacher. Her voice was calm, but clear. "I saw it with my own eyes," she said. "Chinaza saved Tomiwa. She dragged her through the bush with her one hand. No one else helped." Some students opened their mouths. Some stared at Chinaza in silence. A few nodded slowly, but Tomiwa, standing beside her friends, just scoffed. "That's not true," she said, folding her arms. "I crawled out by myself." "But Tomiwa," one of her girls started. She turned and cut her off. "Please, me? Carried by a one-handed girl? That's not possible. How can she carry me with just one hand? Was she flying or using magic? Laughter burst out like firecrackers. And just like that, the truth was buried. Tomiwa never said thank you. In fact, the bullying got worse. Now, she mocked Chinaza with new fire in her eyes, as if saving her had been an insult. You think you're a hero now, she would laugh. You should be grateful I even talk about you. You'd be invisible otherwise. Chinaza said nothing. She didn't correct the lies. She didn't demand praise. Because she had not helped Tomiwa to be thanked. She had done it because it was the right thing to do. But something inside her was changing. It no longer hurt the way it used to. Instead, something colder, stronger, and more determined had begun to grow. It was December, and the Christmas season had arrived. School had closed, and all the students had returned to their homes. St. Michael's was empty and silent. Tomiwa's family, like they did every year, prepared to travel to their hometown for the holidays. On the morning of their departure, they packed their bags, loaded the car, and began their journey. But by the start of the next school term, Tomiwa didn't return. The school waited. Days passed, then weeks. Eventually, a teacher was sent to her house to check. But what they discovered left everyone speechless. The house was locked. Doors gathered on the windows. The neighbors said they never returned from their trip. No one knew what had happened to the entire family. They had vanished. Tomiwa was gone. Just like that, Chinaza's bully had disappeared, leaving behind only silence and unanswered questions. Chinaza felt a strange kind of relief. For the first time, she walked through school without being mocked or insulted. With Tomiwa gone, the air in St. Michael's changed. No more shouting. No more jokes about her hand. No more laughter that felt like knives. The classroom was quiet now. Chinaza could raise her hand without fear. The teacher called her name more. Some students even started asking her for answers during lessons. She still sat alone. She still walked home through the same dusty path. But for the first time, the road didn't feel too long, and the silence didn't feel so heavy. She studied hard, harder than ever. Morning, night, even when her body was tired. Her books became her best friends. Her pen never rested. Then the final exams came, and just like rain falling on dry ground, Chinaza passed. She passed very well. Her name was on the school board, one of the best results. Her mother danced around their small room when she heard the news. 2 days after her graduation, tragedy struck. Her mother fell sick suddenly. It began as a fever, then worsened by the day. Chinaza ran to the small chemist near their house. "Please help me. My mama is sick," she begged. The woman behind the counter shook her head. "You need a real hospital, not this place." But hospitals needed money they didn't have. Chinaza went home with nothing but a wrapper soaked in water. She sat by Mama's side, fanning her slowly. "Mama, please don't go," she whispered, holding her only hand. That night, the oil in the lantern finished. The room became dark. The air was quiet. Then Mama squeezed her hand gently. "My Chinaza," she said softly, "don't stop. Don't break, even if the world tries to bend you." Then she closed her eyes, and she never opened them again. She passed away just like that. Chinaza sat there in the small room with the leaking roof, holding her mother's hand as the night swallowed her whole. And in that moment, the silence became louder than anything she had ever heard. Chinaza was now truly alone. No father, no mother, no siblings, no friends. Her dream was to go to university. She had the results. She had the heart. But she didn't have the money. She visited her uncles one by one. But instead of help, she met mockery. First uncle lived in the next compound. He opened his door and looked her up and down. What do you want? Uncle, I want to go to university. He laughed like thunder on an empty sky. University? You? With one hand? Who will give you a job after that? Who will employ a handicap like you? She swallowed her shame and moved on. The second uncle was sitting outside, peeling yam. She greeted him and knelt. Uncle, please help me. Just a little. I want to further my education. He didn't look up. He kept peeling. Then he said, we don't waste money. You should go and learn hairdressing or sewing. Use your one hand and find something small to do. But uncle, go home, he snapped, or go and beg like the others. Chinaza stood slowly, her eyes dry, but her chest full of rain. She walked from house to house, from cousin to cousin, knocking on gates like a beggar of dreams. But every door was a closed mouth. Every face wore the same look, pity mixed with pride. One auntie even said, we're not running charity here. That night, Chinaza sat outside her empty house, watching the stars. The file with her certificates was beside her, but it felt like paper that could not buy bread. She looked at her one hand. She didn't hate it, but she didn't know what to do with it anymore. She looked at the road in front of her. It was wide, it was unknown, but it was open. Chinaza had no place left to turn. The shame, the loneliness, the rejection, it was too much. One morning, she packed a small bag and ran away. She left the town behind and boarded a rickety bus to the city, hoping to find something, anything. But the city was not kind. She had no shelter, no food, no job. She knocked from shop to shop, searching for work, but every door closed. She knocked on shop doors. Please, I can wash, I can sweep, I can work. But the answers were the same. A woman selling food looked at her arm and said, you, wash plate, with which hand? Better go and sit down. A tailor shook his head. I need 2 hands in this shop. One big supermarket man didn't even let her talk. We don't hire people like you, he said. Chinaza walked and walked until her feet cried. She sat under a bridge that night, holding her bag like a baby. Buses flew past, horns screamed, mosquitoes danced around her head. She had no food, no home, no voice to cry with. But even in that darkness, she told herself, I did not come this far to give up. And that night, the cold hugged her, but her dream stayed warm. Eventually, after many nights of sleeping on benches and starving through the day, she stumbled across a small restaurant. It was one afternoon. The sun burned the street like hot charcoal. She saw a small restaurant with a torn signboard that said, Mama K's Kitchen, hot food always. She stood by the door, watching the woman inside. The woman was tall, strong, and had eyes like sharp stone. What are you looking at? She barked. Chinaza stepped forward. Please, ma, I need work. Anything. The woman looked at her hand. Only one? Yes, ma. You strong? Chinaza nodded. Can you wash plates? Yes, ma. Clean floor? Yes, ma. Carry tray with soup and meat? I'll try, ma. The woman crossed her arms. Pay is small, but you'll eat here. You'll sleep in the storeroom. No complaining. Chinaza dropped her bag on the floor and said, I'm ready. From that day, she became part of the restaurant. She woke before the cock crowed. She swept. She mopped. She washed mountain of plates till her fingers wrinkled. She carried trays with her one hand, balancing like a dancer on tight rope. She didn't rest. She didn't grumble. Her sweat became her perfume. Other workers laughed behind her back. She thinks she's special. She wants to go to university with plate money. But Chinaza kept quiet. Each night after work, she went to the storeroom, lay on a mat beside bags of rice, and counted her savings. Small coins, dirty notes, tied inside a black handkerchief. She counted them again and again, hoping they had grown. But they never did. It was not enough, not even half. Still, she kept working, because even drops of water can fill a drum if you don't stop pouring. Then, one day, something unexpected happened. A man walked into the restaurant. He was tall, handsome, well-dressed. He had stopped by quickly to grab a meal before a meeting. At that moment, Chinaza, balancing a tray of food and soup with her one hand, turned the corner and didn't see him coming. Bam! She bumped into him. The tray hit his chest. Hot soup spilled across his fine white shirt. The whole place went silent. The man stood still. His fine white shirt was now yellow with pepper oil and red with shame. Chinaza gasped, I'm sorry, sir." Before she could finish, her boss stormed out from the kitchen. Her slippers hit the ground like thunder. She didn't ask questions. Slap. Chinaza's cheek burned. Her head turned to the side. "Useless girl," Mama K shouted. "You want to spoil my business? You want to chase my customers?" Chinaza stood still, her hand shaking, her heart twisting like rope in fire. But the man raised his palm gently. "It's okay," he said. His voice was calm. "Leave her. It was an accident." He picked up his bag and walked out, just like that. The customers whispered. The kitchen workers stared. Mama K hissed and turned to Chinaza. "You have finished today." That night, when the last plate was washed and the floor was mopped, Mama K walked to her. "Pack your things. You're fired. Get out of my shop." Chinaza said nothing. She went to the storeroom, rolled her mat, tied her small bag, and stepped out into the night. Chinaza stepped out of the storeroom with her bag. Her face was wet, not from tears, but from sweat and shame. She walked back into the restaurant one last time to pick her slippers from under the table where she dropped them. As she bent down, her fingers touched something smooth, something not there before. It was a wallet, black, shiny, thick like bread. She opened it slowly. Her eyes widened. Money, plenty money, enough to pay for university. Her hands trembled. This is more than she had ever held in her life. She stared at it for a long time. Her hand shook. But then, inside the wallet, tucked neatly behind the cash, was an ID card. The man, the one she had poured soup on. His name, Benson Okezi. His address, written clearly. Her feet started moving before her mind did. She ran, through the busy streets, past noise, dust, and loud cars. She ran like the wind was chasing her. She reached the address. It was a big compound. Tall black gate. A dog barked from inside. She knocked. The gateman peeped out with sleepy eyes. "Who are you?" "I want to see the owner," she said, panting. "Eh, my boss doesn't see people at night. Go home." "I can't," she said, her voice breaking. "Please, just give him this." She raised the wallet. The man frowned, looked again, then hissed. "Wait." He walked inside slowly, like someone who didn't believe her. Chinaza stood there, holding her bag, holding her breath. Minutes passed. The gate opened again, and there he was. Benson. Same clean face, same calm eyes. He looked at her, surprised. "You?" She nodded and stretched out the wallet. You dropped this, sir. He took it, opened it, saw the money. His eyes softened. I've been looking for this all day, he said. You found it? And brought it here? She nodded again. Yes, sir. Please, take something, he said, reaching into his pocket. She shook her head. No, sir. I didn't return it for reward. Where are you going now? It's dangerous out here at night. Her answer broke him. I'll find the space under the bridge to sleep. I was fired today. I have nowhere to go. For a moment, he said nothing. Then, gently, he replied, You can stay here tonight. The house is big. You don't need to sleep outside. Chinaza hesitated. I don't know you, sir. I understand. My name is Benson. You're safe here, just for tonight. With one mind, she agreed. The house was big, too big for one person. Benson opened the door and led her inside. The floor shined like glass. The walls smelled like lemon. The chairs looked soft enough to sleep on. Chinaza stood near the door, afraid to move. You can sit, Benson said gently. She nodded, but didn't sit. He brought water. She drank slowly, like someone who didn't want to finish it too fast. Then he looked at her with quiet eyes. You really plan to sleep under the bridge tonight? She nodded again. Yes, sir. He shook his head slowly. The world can be cruel. She looked down. I'm used to it. Then he pointed down the hallway. That's your room, just for tonight. There's water to bath and fresh clothes on the bed. Chinaza followed his finger, walking like she was inside a dream. The room was clean. A soft bed waited, covered in white sheet. A towel lay folded like a gift. A wrapper, a sponge, a small soap. She entered the bathroom. Warm water poured from the tap. It felt like heaven on her skin. The dust, the sweat, the pain washed away like bad memory. She came out, dried her body, wore the clean clothes. She looked in the mirror. She didn't look like the same girl who was slapped in a restaurant just hours ago. She lay on the bed. Her eyes blinked slowly. Her body relaxed for the first time in forever. And before the fan could make its third full turn, Chinaza was asleep. No tears, no hunger, no fear, just peace. Sweet, quiet, deep peace. Morning came with soft light peeping through the curtains. Birds sang gently outside. Chinaza opened her eyes, not on a mat, not on the floor, but on a soft bed that didn't smell like sweat or dust. She sat up quickly, heart beating fast. She had overslept. She packed her bag in a rush and tiptoed out, ready to leave before the man could wake. But Benson was already at the dining table, reading newspaper, tea beside his hand. He looked up and smiled. Good morning. Good morning, sir, she said, head low. You want to run away? No, sir, I should go. Go where? She didn't answer. He folded his paper. Stay, she blinked. Stay here. Work as my house help. I'll take care of your school. You can go to school from here. Her bag dropped from her hand. Tears rushed to her eyes. Her knees hit the floor. Thank you, sir, she cried. Thank you so much. May God bless you forever. From that day, a new chapter began. She swept the house. She cooked simple meals. She washed clothes. But once it was time, she wore her uniform, carried her books, and went to school. She never missed a class. She always came home early. Every night, she sat with her books, reading until sleep begged her eyes to close. Benson never shouted, never touched her, never looked at her like she was different. He lived alone. No wife, no children, no visitors, no pictures on the wall, just silence, clean space, and soft music playing from an old radio. Chinaza noticed, but she didn't ask questions, because in a world that had pushed her away like old cloth, Benson had opened his door. And that was enough. Years moved like quiet water. Chinaza woke early, cleaned the house, cooked Benson's meals, and rushed to school with her books pressed tight against her chest. She studied harder than anyone. While others rested, she read. While others played, she listened. Pain had shaped her. Hunger had trained her. Shame had made her sharp. And when the final day came and she walked across the graduation stage in her gown, the crowd clapped. Her name echoed through the loudspeaker. Chinaza Neka, first class, accounting. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she held her certificate high. From a roadside corn seller's daughter to the best in the university. After graduation, companies came knocking. One firm gave her a job with good pay, big office, and her own chair that rolled like a car. Chinaza smiled more now, but her feet stayed humble. She still helped Benson at home, still thanked him for every meal, still prayed every night before sleep. And quietly, without any loud noise, love began to grow. Benson had fallen in love with her. It wasn't sudden, it wasn't forced. It grew slowly, from kindness, respect, shared meals, late-night conversations, and quiet glances across the table. And when he told her how he felt, she smiled, because she had fallen too. They began to plan a future together, but Chinaza had one condition. Before we marry, I must meet your family. Benson nodded. Of course, we will go to my hometown. So one weekend, they traveled. The road to Benson's village was long and quiet. Trees lined both sides like guards, and birds followed the car like messengers. Chinaza sat beside him, her heart calm, her hand resting on her bag. When they arrived in the quiet village of Ogboko, Chinaza was surprised at how small and peaceful it was. Children played in the dust. Old women sat under trees, cracking ground nuts. They arrived at a modest house with a faded zinc roof. Benson knocked. An old man opened the door. His face lit up. Ah, Benson, my son. They embraced. Chinaza stood to the side smiling. But then, someone else rolled into view. A young woman on a wheelchair. Her face was familiar. Too familiar. It was Tomiwa. Her hair was thinner, her eyes sunken, but it was her, the girl who had once made school unbearable. Behind her were her parents. Their proud faces now carried the weight of suffering. Chinaza's heart paused. Tomiwa blinked. Chinaza, her mother gasped. You're the one Benson wants to marry? Benson looked between them, confused. You know each other? Chinaza nodded slowly. Tomiwa lowered her head. Yes, I used to bully her. In school. Her father sighed. When we traveled years ago, we were involved in a terrible accident. Tomiwa lost both legs. We spent everything we had trying to treat her. That's why we never came back. He continued, Benson is my nephew, but he left home early and grew up in the city. He's the one who sends money now. He feeds us, pays our rent. Tomiwa looked up with tears in her eyes. Chinaza, I'm so sorry. I never imagined your life would turn out like this. I never imagined mine would end like this. Her mother joined in. Please forgive us. We were blind. Chinaza felt her throat tighten. She walked to Tomiwa, knelt beside her, and gently took her hand. What you laugh at today, she said, might become yours tomorrow. I forgive you. Tears ran freely down Tomiwa's cheeks. Word of Chinaza's success spread back to Okigwe. Her uncles and the villagers who once mocked her now spoke her name with admiration. They hoped she would return, but Chinaza never did. She had no reason to. She stayed with Benson, and together they built a beautiful life, a home filled with love, grace, and second chances. Chinaza, the girl who was once laughed at for having one hand, became a symbol of strength for 1,000 others. Her scars didn't stop her, they made her shine. Moral of the story: never judge someone by what they lack. Compassion can come from the places we expect it the least. And strength is not always loud. It sometimes comes with a limp or with one hand, but it is strength all the same. I hope you enjoyed the story. If so, please like the video, comment what you learned from the tale, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more enchanting tales just like this one. Thank you.